Okay, so we are here now. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time where you're joining us from. So you're welcome to this session today. We'll be talking about the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. As you join, just let us know your name and where you're joining us from in the comment section. We'll be talking today about some of the peculiar things you need to know about the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, how it's structured, eligibility, how to apply, and a little tips here and there about what we can do, and how to make your application a little bit more outstanding. So I'll start by introducing myself, and then my fellow speakers can also introduce themselves. So my name is Onyebuchi. I'm from Nigeria. I was a Commonwealth Shared Scholar at the University of Leeds. I studied Transport Planning and Engineering 2022/2023 session. And it's a pleasure to be here today. Billy, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Billy Chabarenge, originally from Zambia. Currently doing a PhD in the UK.
Okay, thank you. Chimwe, over to you.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Chimwemwe Masano from Malawi. Just completed MA International Development from the University of East Anglia. Yeah, so that's me.
Okay, thank you. And you're all welcome. So I can see some people are already indicating their presence on the chat. And I'm sure people are also viewing us on other different platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So you're all very welcome, and we'll go straight to it. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to give a very brief introduction about Commonwealth scholarships in general, and then we're going to kind of focus more on the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, which is the current one that is open. And then we'll talk about a little bit about other peculiar things that need to be said. So at any point during the conversation, if you have a question, you can just put it in the comment section and we'll add it to the conversation and try to answer your questions as much as possible. So I hope that's fine. Yeah, so let me start off by saying that the Commonwealth Scholarship is a very prestigious scholarship that members of the Commonwealth countries are eligible to apply for. And there are about 6 different categories of Commonwealth scholarships. There's the Commonwealth Masters, the Commonwealth PhD, Commonwealth Shared, the Commonwealth Split Site, and there's a scholarship for people with disabilities, and there's another one for high income countries as well. So there's a broad range of scholarships that the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission offers, and usually it caters to different demographics. And so the shared scholarship is one of those many scholarships that they offer, which is called this Commonwealth Shared Scholarship because it is a joint scholarship between the university and the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. So the scholarship is offered as a partnership between the UK-based university and the Scholarship Commission. And that means that if you are selected as a Commonwealth Shared Scholar, you are a joint responsibility of both your institution and the commission. And that comes with some levels of benefit as well. So it is only applicable to selected MSc programs in selected institutions in the UK. And they always provide a list of eligible courses that allow us to know which direction they are going. Another important point is that these Commonwealth scholarships are usually categorized as developmental scholarships. And so it's very heavy on developmental impact in the Commonwealth nations where the scholars come from. And these exist under 6 broad themes. So if you've gone through this Commonwealth Scholarship website, you would have seen the 6 themes. And those 6 themes are also linked to the SDGs. And these are 2 things that you need to have in mind whenever you're applying for a Commonwealth scholarship. And in the case of the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, all the courses are categorized under one of the 6 themes. And that is a very important point that you need to take into consideration when you are making your application. Because 2 courses can have the same course title and the same course name, but they can exist under different themes because they are aimed at achieving different things. And that would also guide you in the kind of application that you need to make. So it is one of those important points that I just wanted to bring out. I don't know, Billy or Chinwe, if you wanted to add anything before we move on to more specifics about shared in particular.
No, I don't know if we're moving into like talking about the developmental impact or anything else, or just the overview itself, like a comment on that one.
Yeah, just a comment on the overview. Like,
Okay.
as a former scholar, what were the important things that
Okay.
you looked at when you saw the Commonwealth shared, things that stood out to you?
Okay. So for me, I applied for the Commonwealth Shared. So just to put it out there, I was not selected for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship itself, but I was selected for the Commonwealth Masters Scholarship. So some of the like some of the issues that I took into consideration when I was applying for the Commonwealth Masters, I also applied to the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship with a bit of a twist. When I say a bit of a twist, because as Buchi has said, it's a little bit different because not every course in the UK is applicable under the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So one of the first things that I highlighted at the beginning is to look at the courses that they are offering in the universities that the Commonwealth itself has partnered with the university, that the Commonwealth Secretariat has partnered with the universities. So that's one of the key things as an applicant to look out for. And another thing is for you to also look at the themes themselves. If what is it that you're trying to solve after you go back to your country, is it applicable under the themes that you're applying for? For example, international development, you find it that there's international development, it's under, for example, strengthening health systems, and you find another one, international development, it's under environmental something. The only difference that this makes is because if you go down deep into those courses, you find that the modules might be the ones that are differentiating how these courses have been structured to be put under those. Or it might be the universities themselves want students who have that background in terms of those things that they want you to apply under. So one of the things is for you to read both the Commonwealth Secretariat website and also read the school's website, because as Buchi said, this is a joint scholarship between the Secretariat as well as the universities. The universities also have more power over how the scholarship itself is run. So in this case, they also put in some other eligibility criteria other than those specified by the Commonwealth Scholarship Secretariat. So you might find that different schools have different criteria that they want the scholars to apply for. So others might want you to have an offer with the university. Others might want you to screen you before you apply for the scholarship itself. So they'll say, okay, we're not going to give you an offer yet, but please send us your document so that we know that you are eligible for you to study under our course. So you'll find that information. If you don't find information on the website itself, please email the universities. They are so much happy to provide information and promptly, because they know that this is an application season, so they will be happy to answer your questions. So if you don't know what the school wants, please email them, ask questions, read everything that is there. The key thing is to do as much research as you can as you're applying for the CSC scholarship. That's what I can say. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chinwe. That was a very important point. Billy, I don't know if you want to also contribute anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So in addition to what Chimwemwe has said, it is very important that you also consider the universities, or those universities which are eligible for this scholarship, and read through the information that is provided on their website, especially on the deadlines. Some universities would want you to have already have an offer from them before you put in your application. Others will say you can still go ahead and apply without you having an offer from them. So if you do not read both the information on the scholarship on the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission website and also on the university that you are interested in, you may find that you just put in an application which will not be looked at because you would have not researched properly. So it's very important that before you apply, you do a thorough research on what that university requires for you to be admitted in that course that is eligible for the Commonwealth scholarship, the Commonwealth shared scholarship, because this is not open to all the courses, it's only open to selected courses. So please ensure that you read through the information that is provided on the website for each university that you want to apply to. And the goodness with the Commonwealth shared scholarship is that you can make a number of applications as long as you are eligible for those courses. Well, how do you make that? You log in into the online portal. Once you log in, you select that university and the course, and you proceed to complete your application. If you want to apply to another course or another university, when you log in at the beginning of the online application form, you'll find a tab for a new application. So you start another new application and ensure that you attach all the required documents. And then just to go a bit back on the eligibility, I know there are some people who want to do a Commonwealth shared scholarship after doing an undergraduate from another higher income country. So what you need to note is that for those who have studied in another country, or those who have studied in UK for at least a year or more, or they've worked for at least a year or more in higher income countries, you will not be eligible to apply for this scholarship. So if you go ahead and apply, your application will not be considered to be eligible. So please check through all the eligibility criteria and have a ticking point where you say, okay, I'm eligible on this point, I'm eligible on this point, and ensure that all the eligibility criteria that have been set out by the Scholarship Commission, you are eligible for it before you apply. Another point is on your undergraduate degree. So a minimum that you need to have is a second class degree, a lower second class degree. So if for those of us who were studying during the time when our undergraduate was graded as distinction, merit, credit, and it was not graded. So if you have a credit and above, you are eligible to apply for this scholarship. If your undergraduate was not graded, maybe you have a silent, I would advise that you do not apply for this scholarship, because the scholarship is very competitive, and when it comes to selecting, you will see on the website that they've provided the selection criteria, the criteria that they use in terms of grading. And you having at least a lower second class or higher is one of the primary indicators that they are looking for as they are grading your application. So if you do not meet that primary indicator, then you have already fallen off, and you would have wasted your energy and time in preparing all the documents for this scholarship. I would advise that you spend that energy applying for other scholarship that you will be eligible for. Yeah, I think this is what I'll add for now.
Yeah, thank you, Billy, for that shout out on eligibility. I think it's a very, very important point, because you don't want to spend your time and your energy working tirelessly on the whole application process, beginning from the research on the institutions, the admission process, the essay writing, all to come at the end and you're not eligible for the scholarship. That
Yeah.
energy will be spent much better if you had used it to research on other scholarships that you're eligible for. But I also just want to point out that maybe if your undergraduate grade is not uh, up to the minimum, or you are not eligible for one other reason, it doesn't mean that you can't study your dream course. It just means that this platform is just not the one for you.
Mm.
But I believe and I'm sure that there's a million and one opportunities out there that different people fall into different eligibility for.
Yeah.
And so every scholarship, Commonwealth or not, is geared towards a particular goal. And that goal is usually what defines the eligibility requirements.
Mm.
And so there will be a scholarship or an opportunity out there that will align with your own goal and your own eligibility. And you just need to take your time to do your research and you will be able to find it.
So
So
before we go on the same point, if I can I
yeah,
can
go
I
ahead.
Okay, all right. So I also wanted to point out that there is also another line that they've put on the eligibility criteria for this year. If I've read it correctly, say if you have like a lower second class or a pass, but you have a master's degree, then you are eligible to apply. So if you have like a master's degree from your own country, for example, or I don't know any other country that we might qualify, but also take into account the first point to say if you have not studied in a higher income country. So also assess your master's, where is it from? And then if it disqualifies you in another criteria, then you also have to take into consideration, do I need to apply if I have these other criteria that are also crashing? So if you have a master's degree, for example, you're from Malawi and you have your master's degree from Malawi and your undergraduate was in a pass or a lower second class, you are eligible to apply for a second master's. The only thing that I advise though is that if you have another master's and you're looking for a master's degree as well, make sure that you also include it as you're writing somewhere in your essays to mention why you want to study for a second master's. So I think that also should be mentioned because they will say, okay, why is this person wanting a second master's whilst they have another master's already? So, for example, I'll also put an example of myself. I had already another master's degree which I got online using from India. So you can see India is not a high income country. So I was eligible to apply for Commonwealth or for chevening because I had like another master's, but I made sure I explained why I am applying for a second master's degree whilst I have another one. So that one should be mentioned clearly as you're writing your essays or anything else if you have a master's already. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that very detailed point, because I think that's one of the points that a lot of applicants overlook when they're
Mm-hmm.
making the application. So
Yeah.
the general point would be read through the website line to line, page to
Mm.
page. If you open the Commonwealth shared scholarship page, you would see a lot of tabs, how to apply, eligibility requirements, courses, and the rest of them. Try and take your time to read through everything on those tabs so that you get the full length and breadth of the information of what is required to meet up, so that you don't prepare a wonderful application and then miss out because you've not ticked one box. So just try to read through all that, because they update those terms and conditions year in, year out. So the conditions there when I applied, or when Billy applied, or when Chinwe applied might not be the same right now.
Mm.
They might have adjusted things up, down, or removed some criteria or added some extra criteria, because obviously the scholarship body is evolving as the times go by. So it's proper that you go and read through, and also go to the online application portal, create an application, and go through the form and see an interface with the application platform, so that you can understand the way it works and the documents that are required and all the fields that need to be filled, the information that they need you to come up with. If there's a document that they require of you, you know on time, so that you can start preparing it and getting it ready. The deadline is on the 14th of December, which is roughly 3 weeks from now. And so it becomes a kind of rat race to get to the end in time. So yeah, so I think we'll move to speak in more detail about some of the details of the scholarship. But I think we have in the comment section, I saw this shout out to us, BBC. So you guys have a shout out. So yeah, and I think some people are already dropping their questions in the comment section. So you can, if you have a question, you can also do that, or a contribution to the discussion. You can also drop it, and then we'll come back to that at the end of the session. Before we proceed, I would also like to say that we will talk about the application process, and we will give an overview of the essays that are part of the application, because those are usually the main defining criteria for most of these applications. But we will not be able to give in-depth uh, discussion into each of the 11 essays because we don't have the time this evening. However, some scholars have done a webinar on that before, and it is also available on this same YouTube channel. I will have a link here to that particular session, and I will also drop it in the comment section. So at your own convenience, it's a 3-hour long discussion where each essay was dissected one after the other with tips about what you can and cannot, or what is expected of you. So you can take your time in your leisure time to just go into that webinar. Watch it as many times as you may need to, because it's really insightful, and it's a very rich discussion. So we'll just try to provide some general guidance right this evening that will help you to understand maybe part of the details that I explained on that webinar. So the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, like Billy said, it is institution specific. It is a scholarship that is tied to a course and to an institution. So basically what it means is that if you want to apply for this scholarship, you have to identify a course and an institution. So you have to go to the list of eligible courses, check, for example, if you go to the list and you see the University of Warwick and you see environmental engineering, what that means is that environmental engineering at the University of Warwick is what is eligible for the scholarship. It doesn't mean that all courses at the University of Warwick are eligible. It doesn't mean that all courses on environmental engineering are eligible. It simply means that environmental engineering at the University of Warwick has been approved to host a Commonwealth Shared Scholar. So you have to apply to that particular course at that particular university. And when you go to the application portal, when you create an application, each application is tied to a particular course and institution. So, for example, if you want to apply for environmental engineering and you have about 3 universities that have been approved on the list that offer environmental engineering, and you want to apply to all 3 because they meet your goals and your visions, what you do is you have to create 3 separate applications. So you go to the portal, you open one application, you fill the form from the beginning, the essays, the document upload, all the way to the end of the application for the first one. And then you come back and create another application for the second one and do the same thing. And for the third one, you have to do the same thing. But when you want to submit, you will submit all at once. So you have to submit all before the deadline. You can submit one before the other, if I remember correctly. But the important thing is that you have to submit all of them individually before the deadline. The way it works is your application is sent to the university that you applied to. So, for example, the example I gave, University of Warwick Environmental Engineering. So your application and all those that applied for environmental engineering at the University of Warwick will be sent to the University of Warwick. University of Warwick is the nominating agency in this particular case. So they will review all the applications of people that want to study that course at their institution and send a list back to the Commonwealth Commonwealth Scholarship Commission that these are the candidates out of all the applications you sent to us. These are the candidates that we have chosen in this order. They might be a ranking. depending on how many slots that they have for the course. And then the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission will now review those applications that the universities have sent across to them to check if they meet the eligibility criteria that the commission has set. And then they will do a final award to whoever comes at the top. So if the university picks you as number one, does not necessarily mean that the CSC will give you this award, but it will guide the CSC's decision on the final award. So that is the way the process works. And you need to understand that process so that you don't confuse it with something like the Commonwealth Masters, where you do one application to 3 different institutions or 3 different courses, and it's one application to be considered for the 3. In this case, if you want to be considered for any course or university, you have to make an application individually to that course or university. And then that university will get your application, and then they will be able to nominate you if they find that you follow their objectives. This is the reason why it's important to also research on the course and the university website, so that you can understand what the university's objective is with that course, what kind of research they are doing in that area, what kind of modules they offer. And then you will be able to align your essays with the university's objectives, which gives you a higher chance of being chosen by that university. So that is a very, very important point that you need to take home. So this scholarship is very dependent on a lot of research. You are going to write about 11 essays if they haven't increased the number. And those 11 essays also require you to align your thoughts to tell a single wholesome story of what you are trying to achieve with the scholarship. So the first part of this essays is the development impact, and it is split into 4 parts. Development impact 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the way they arrange it. But each part talks about a different parts of your proposed development. So I'll just briefly say this. The whole point of that part is essentially to say what is the development, what is the problem that you are trying to solve by studying this course? How are you going to solve it? How is the knowledge from this course going to help? What strategies are you going to implement after you get the knowledge from the course? And how will you be held accountable, or how can the impact of your development be measured? So these is a wholesome process. Why do you want to study this course? What's the problem you've identified? What are the ways to solve this problem? What's the knowledge you're going to pick out of this course to solve this problem? How will you implement these things? And how can you track that this implementation that you're doing is actually yielding the impact that you want? So those are like the basic 4 questions that essay, that section of 4 essays talks about. So when you go into the form, you see they break it down. There are prompts that ask you what each section is, and each section has a word limit, and you should be able to construct your discussion around that. Billy, do you want to add anything about the development impact?
Yes. So maybe just to also mention, before I go into the developmental impact essay, just to mention that I've also made up a small PDF, just giving more guidance on how to do the essays. I think I'll be able to share it on the WhatsApp group, and people will have access to it. And again, just to mention in general that you need to understand what constitutes a complete application even before you go to writing the essays. So in the online portal, just like Anike has mentioned, you have to go through the online application and complete it. So there are some of the things that you need to ensure you have for you to have a complete application before you submit. And one of them is that, of course, you apply through the online portal for the scholarship, and for course admission, you apply through the university online portal or whatever system they're using for application. So the complete scholarship application will constitute you listing all the undergraduate or a master's that you've done, and the qualification you have to include. If you have done any work experience, you have to include what you've done and what you've worked. It is usually a plus to include any publications that you've done. Like I had mentioned earlier, there are some indicators that they will look at as they are grading your application. So someone who has made some academic publication, or they have academic prizes, those forms part of what they call secondary indicators. So, and they can give you an upper hand over someone who doesn't have such in their application. So ensure that if you have any publication, you include that publication. And if you won any academic prize, such as best student in one of the subject and overall student, you include all those in the application. You also provide details of the three people you want to provide references, those that you want them to recommend you for the scholarship. So at this point, you are just providing their names. The Scholarship Commission will email them to ask for the references, or they will email you to provide the references when you are finally nominated by the UK university that you are applying to. So at the moment, you will not be required to provide references. You will only be required to list the names and the contact address of the three individuals that you wish to recommend you. And it's important that you get academic references, or you get at least one academic reference and a professional reference. And if you are able to get a reference from your workplace, if you are working, that will be another important thing to do. I think there should be something written about, they are emphasizing on those who are working to get a recommendation from their workplace as one of the three recommendations. So please do read through as you are completing the application. The other thing that will constitute a complete application is you uploading the required documents, such as your undergraduate and also your proof of citizenship. So more like a passport or whatever national identity that you use in your country. So if you do not have one, this is the time to prepare and have it before the deadline. Like Anike has mentioned, the deadline is next month on the 14th of December. So you have at least 3 weeks to ensure that you put everything in place. Your academic transcript and the certificate should all be merged and be submitted in the format that is provided on the system. So if you provide in another format that is not requested for, it means you've not completed the complete application, and that is going to disadvantage you. So please follow all the details of the instructions that are provided in the online platform. Now, coming to the developmental impact question, like he has mentioned, yes, the essay question is in 4 parts. And my addition to what Anike is saying is that you should include details of quantifying the impact that you want to make by using percentages, by using numbers, and if possible, use the STAR approach technique for you to explain your write-up in a clear way. When it comes to talking about indicators, there are ways in which you can demonstrate what type of indicators you're going to be using to measure the impacts that you're going to create. You can use such as those of the WHO, for those who are in health. World Health Organization uses a different kind of indicators for them to measure the impact. World Bank, they have their own. Even in your country, you would have some form of measuring the indicators. It could be maybe you have a statistical office on how they measure the impact that is made and the like. You could have the national development plan. Like in my country, there's a national development plan. So that can also be used to demonstrate the impact that you are creating as you are writing the first essay part in the 4 parts of the first essay. And the last point is to ensure that all the 4 parts of this essay are linked. If you are writing the first part of the essay, your write-up is heading south, your next essay is heading east, your other essay is heading west, it will show to the reader that you are not sure of what you are doing, and you will not be able to convince the reader that yes, you are worth uh, a candidate for this scholarship. So ensure that the first part of the essay is flowing and is very logical to the second part of the essay and to the third part of the essay and finally the fourth part of the essay. And that would be my addition on the developmental impact essay.
Yeah, thank you. Chuma,
Yes. So, in addition to the last point that Billy has said about having a complete essay, the advice I would give is to make sure that the developmental impact, in as much as they look like they're different, but they are one. When you finish writing the developmental impact essays, or the four of them, you realize that you have written only one essay in essentially. So what that means is make sure that as you're writing an essay, you have an opening that will catch the reader. So this opening is coming in the first essay. So whenever you're writing an opening of your whole essay, it means it has to have all the things that you want to achieve, the course itself, as well as the problem. So you state the problem, you state why this course is important for you. And it's more or less like the first essay, I take it as a summary of all the things that you're going to write in the three essays in the follow-up. But somehow touching on them like in smaller bits and pieces. So that's how you want to take the first essay itself, and then you go through to the other essays that are there. At the same time, you'd also want to make sure that you go back and read on the themes themselves, because that's your starting point. So as Billy, as Bushi said, there are those 6 themes that Commonwealth has stated on their website. So each course is falling under a certain theme. So you take a water-based essay, for example, an environmental essay, and then you want to study that course, and you're coming in to be talking about I don't know, something that is completely different. That's not what the whole course is trying to achieve. By the end of the day, it's like your impact in what that course wants to achieve, they are like completely different things. So make sure you also read the impact, the themes themselves rather, to say, okay, what is this theme trying to achieve? And how is, you can also go in an extra mile to say, okay, how is FCDO working under this thing in my own country? Because FCDO has also programs that they support under those. So you have access and inclusion. When I looked at access and inclusion for this year, I could see that they are targeting gender courses, disability inclusion issues. So you look at those because they have put those courses under access and inclusion. It means when you're writing your developmental impact essay, it should be something that will solve issues of gender, issues of disability, issues of access, inclusion in any way that you can write on that one. So it can be a disability program or a gender program, maybe that is embedding like health issues to say with disability or something like that. There's so many things that you can write on that one. So the thing is, you stay on the focus of that theme itself, and also find out what is it that there is a problem, what's the problem in there. And one other thing is to make sure that you also want to look back at what you've done in that area. That one will also highlight how you take those things into account, because in as much as you can switch master's courses, like to switch to another program, by the end of the day, it should be something that is also talking to you on a personal level. So even if you've done something completely different, but there's something that is prompting you to study that course itself. because it will not come from the blue. Because for me, I've worked, for example, in gender and disability issues. All of a sudden, I would say, oh, I just want to study airspace engineering. It will not make sense. It will not make sense. So also make sure that parts of your essay relate to something that you know. You can be coming in from a development related theme, and then you want to venture into an entrepreneurship course. There will be something that will talk into that area. That is something that you have done something in the, or you hope to see that there's a problem somewhere in here that I want to solve, which I think relates to something that I encountered in one way or another. So make sure that you should be looking back and look forward, and also assess yourself, your skills, if you can also manage to be in that course. Another one is, I think the last one I wanted to also say that as you're choosing the course itself, make sure on the eligibility, you also see that you are eligible, you can be taken should you apply for that course, like for admission, because that's another key thing. Because some universities will put in eligibility requirements for admission that are even too hard. You might meet the eligibility requirements for the Commonwealth itself, and you see that the theme is talking to you and everything else. But when you go to the university itself, the eligibility criteria are already putting you out of the system. So that's also another thing that you need to balance the two. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think very important points. I just wanted to add one more thing before we move on. I think we've not talked about the SDGs,
Hmm.
which is another very important point. I think another very important part of the scholarship. So, in addition to the 6 Commonwealth themes, they will also ask you for the top 3 SDGs that your application is gearing towards. So you also need to go and study the SDGs. There has to be, you rank SDG 1, SDG 2, SDG 3. There are 17 SDGs. So you need to know this course I'm going to study, this developmental impact I'm talking about, this Commonwealth theme that is placed under. Where does my problem fit perfectly? Are you trying to solve the problem of world hunger? Are you trying to solve the problem of health? Are you trying to solve the problem of institutions? Are you trying to solve the problem of climate change? Are you trying to solve the problem of infrastructure? So you need to go to the SDGs and look. And when you're looking at the SDGs, don't just look at the heading of the SDGs. Don't go to SDG and you see zero hunger and then you say, oh, this is where I'm going to. No, you need to go into the SDG, and every SDG has what they call targets. So every SDG has a number of targets. Some SDGs may have 5 targets, some may have 11 targets, but those targets are what the SDG is pursuing. I'll give you an example. When I was writing my own scholarship essays, I did transport planning and engineering, and I was focusing on solving road safety problems. So ordinarily, when you hear transport planning and engineering, you'll be thinking maybe SDG 9 that talks about mega cities and infrastructure, or SDG 11 that talks about innovations. But my top SDG was SDG 3 that talked about health. Because under SDG 3, there's a target 3.6 that talks about reducing the number of crashes and injuries due to accidents on the roads. So it was, on face value, when you see SDG 3 and they're talking about health, you'll be thinking about doctors or people in health sciences or people in the labs. But under that SDG, there was a target that was specifically talking about road safety and collisions on the roads. And that was the center of what I was writing about. So if I had chosen other SDGs and forgotten about SDG number 3 that has that target, then it's very clear that I don't really know exactly what I'm trying to achieve, or I don't really understand the SDGs, because it was clearly written there that this is a target. And under the targets, you also have indicators, and there were some indicators that were also placed under that target of how they are going to measure the reduction in accidents and stuff like that. So you need to go, I recommend you go through the 17 SDGs and look at the targets I think the targets will amount, I think it's a total of 100 and something targets in total. So try to go through all of them. Take your time, look through it. You would have a direction of where you're going when you start looking at those things, and they will help you to also organize. Because even as Billy was talking about indicators, some of the indicators might also be from the SDG itself, because some of them are stated how those impact will be measured. So you can also align your measurement or your indicators with theirs. So just before we move on to the next round of essays, I think we should take some of the comments, some of the questions in the comment section, so that our audience is following us as we are discussing. So I think one of the first questions we got was this one: how does the school nominate their nominees? And I think we've touched on this when we did the introduction about how each application goes to the specific school and the specific course, and then they nominate based on the criteria that the university has set, and then the CSC will now vet against their own criteria, and it will come back to you. So I think we've answered this question, and that also covers this question. So let me move to another question that we have. This is another good question I saw. So please, what category does an MPhil or PhD fall under for those who have done a master's before? I think, like we've said, the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is simply for master's degree courses, and not just all master's degree courses. I think it's 1 year taught master's degree courses in the UK, if I'm correct. So that should guide you, and that is, and it's easier to know this by the courses that have already been listed as the eligible courses, because the CSC has already vetted that these courses meet their criteria. So the only thing you need to do is go to the course list, and then when you see the course and the university, go to the university website and read about the course, and then you will know whether it aligns with whatever objective that you have. So this is another question. Good evening. Please, concerning the part where we are to list 10 publications and prizes, how does one go about that, and is it compulsory to list them? Thanks. Billy, you talked about this, so I'll allow you to provide an answer.
Yeah. So you simply state the first part of your publication. I think it allows someone to even copy a link. You make it the DOI link, and you paste the link. So once you paste, you put a brief title of the publication that you did. You also put the link in case they want to verify. Once you save, to ask the system will ask you if you have another publication that you need to add or not. So if you have another one, you click on add another one. You continue until you add 10 publication or prizes. I think, like Anike mentioned, once you interact more with the system, you'll be able to see that adding information is actually simple. The system is itself will be able to direct you on what you need to add. If you click next, you've not added information, it will be able to prompt you that you need to add information in this section. So it will be pretty easy for you to follow through once you log in and you just have a look at what information needs to be included. Yeah. So my advice on adding publication is that do not just add all the publication. We have people who have over 50 publication. Include those that you think will have an impact in the application that you are making, and they are related maybe to the field that you want to study in, so that when someone is reading the whole of your application, they should be able to see a relation from your work experience, from your undergraduate, how the publication that you've made or the prizes that you have, the essays, everything should be able to be linked together for you to have a strong application. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to, if I
yeah,
can,
go ahead.
okay, I wanted to add to talk about the last part, which he says, and is it compulsory to list them? I know Billy talked about this and he said these are like secondary indicators. Imagine someone who has listed 10 and someone who has not listed any, and there's a tie between the two. So these secondary indicators will take precedence over someone who has not indicated any. And also, sometimes people are afraid to say, okay, I need to have like a publication which has a DOI, which is out there, or something like that. If you don't have like publications out there, you can also list, for example, your undergrad thesis that you did, or if you had like certain publications that you made, for example, some writing in your area. Some other people are writers, for example, on LinkedIn. You talk about the things that you're doing in your own, for example, your work. So some people write. I know some people are very good at writing about the problems that are associated in the kind of work that they hope to do. You can also include those other links to those writings that you have. Others have like blog articles that they do. They write about some of the issues, because the thing is, you also have to include some of the things that are also related to this. So if you have even a blog article that you're talking about such kind of issues with some people, you can also do that. And people are also taking advantage of Facebook, because they have Facebook pages where they're also educating people about environmental issues, for example, or health issues. If you do have such kind of pages, you can also paste them. I remember I also added like I did a few consultancies or here and there. So I also included those in my application. So what I did was just to put a title of what is it that I was doing, like what kind of research I was doing, and I indicated that this is a work related document, which I did not have a link to that, but at least it showed that I have done something else in terms of like publications or prizes or something like that. So it's better to list everything that you have. I even had some article that I wrote in the newspaper. So anything that you have put out there, it shows that you are out there. You write something for people to make decisions for, or you write something for people to just to teach some people out there. So anything that you can think of that is related, if you have a link, put it. If you don't, please just list it and mention that this was just published in a newspaper column, or this one was just a work related document that I did on something else. This one was a undergrad dissertation. This one was a master's thesis or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think very important points there. So just make the best use of what you have. I think that's the summary of the point. Make the best use of what you have and give as much as you can give to the application to strengthen your application. And I think generally, I will also say be creative in the way you answer some of the questions in this form, because like the world is changing, and in times past, maybe if you have an article, it has to be on a hard copy in a journal in a library somewhere. But these days, people have papers that are online on different platforms online and stuff like that, and so you can leverage those things, because if you work in a maybe you work for an NGO or you work in an organization and you've produced a report about a particular issue, those things are also considered as part of things that you've written, because this is a work that you have produced yourself, and it is if it's related to the issue you're talking about, then why not just put it in the application? It doesn't take anything away from the strength of your application, rather it will add value to your application, because like we've said, the scholarship is highly competitive. So everything you can do to strengthen your application, try to make use of it. But uh, it's also not compulsory, though. I think that's not part of the compulsory requirements of the form. It's an additional thing, so it's secondary requirement. But whenever you see something that is indicated as secondary requirement, just know that that is what will be used on the last at the end to separate the wheat from the chaff, because at the end, when a lot of applications flood in and everyone is having the same baseline, there must be something used to differentiate. So try to be creative with these opportunities, because it's an opportunity they've given you to stand out. And I think we still have a few more questions. So we have this one. those who have a 2-2 and have a master's can still apply for another scholarship, another master's, right? I think this was the point that we touched on, that if you have a 2-2 or a pass and you have a master's in a lower income country or less developed country, then you should be eligible. But I would also advise that you go to the page and read the exact wordings of the scholarship commission, so that you can understand exactly what qualifies and what does not qualify. Then we have this. I think this question came in when Billy mentioned that he has a PDF that he has used to simplify the impact assessment, and it to be available on the WhatsApp group. So we have, I think we have different WhatsApp groups for scholarship mentorship, and I would say the easiest way to get to any of these groups would be to reach out to any of the speakers. So as the webinar goes on, you would see our names will pop up, and the easiest way I always advise people is take the name and you go to LinkedIn, and you can easily find us. And you just need to send a connection request and then send a message. Please don't send a message and say hi and just leave it there. Please don't do that. Make it comprehensive. Hello, nice to connect with you. I am so person. I attended so webinar where you spoke, and I remember they talked about a WhatsApp group, and I would like to be part of the WhatsApp group mentorship, so that once someone like me reads your message, I already know what to do. I know how to help you. I know what to do for you. If you send hi, I might see your hi and I might forget to respond hi back, or I might respond hi back and then it take us another 1 week, and we have between now and 3 weeks to complete your application. So to make everything fast, try to make any contact you're making to be very comprehensive. The speakers, I don't know if I'm speaking your minds when I say what I said.
Yes, that, I usually get a lot of highs, and it's usually imagine you have 15 people who are just saying hi, hi, hi. How do you reply? So, but if someone clearly states what request they need, it's usually easy for you to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is a similar question. This one is applying for different universities using different emails can disqualify you in case you are selected by more than one university.
I'm smiling because I think we tackled this question at some other point and we didn't reach a consensus. But what I would say is the first thing I say, the name is the same. Your name will not change. Even if you use a Gmail or the other application you use a Yahoo, the other application you use whatever kind of an email. Even if you use one same email, it's still okay. Because by the end of the day, the name that will go to Commonwealth Secretariat will still be Chimweme Masano, even if I've used different emails. So the only thing that will make you, it's not about disqualification, but the thing is, if you get nominated by, say, let's say, two or more universities, what they'll see is this person is someone who has been like you're a very a person who is being so many universities want you. So what they'll see is they see your name and that university, this university, that university, and that university. So the Commonwealth will just, I don't know if they make you to select a university that you want to go, or
Yeah, yeah,
yes. So that's the thing. So they'll give
yeah.
you a choice for you
For
to just
shared, they'll reach out to you to
to
ask
reach
you
out to
which
you.
one you
Yes.
want to accept.
If, yes, which one you want to accept. So even if you apply with the same email to all of these universities, that's fine. If you want to change the emails, that is also fine, because I think from the past discussion, we had some who applied using different emails and some of us who applied with the same email because we figured it's the same name anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only caution I will give is don't use different emails to make the same application to the same university and the same course. So that's, I think there's a caveat on their website that says something about multiple applications.
Hmm.
You can use your first email to apply for the first course and use a second email to apply for a second course. That should be fine.
Yeah.
But don't try to increase your chances by using 3 different emails to apply for the same course, because that can amount to uh, multiple application, and then that's where you have problem. But if you get multiple nominations from different universities, it's not a problem. It's never been a problem.
Yeah, so just
So
a small addition, yes. And it's usually nice to be honest, even when you need people to help you with the monies for you to do your scholarship, or to do your studies. It's usually good to be honest in everything that you are doing. Like I mentioned before, you can apply to as many courses and universities that you are eligible for within the same application. And the system again will allow you to put in an alternative email address should you want to use another email address for you to receive communication. So basically, everything will be in one logging in with your details, so that you will not have to again start typing what your name is, your identity, if you are male. So you will not be able to complete the first part. Every time you are completing another application within your first application, you will just be selecting start another application, and you start. So that at least to even quicken the process for you to apply to a number of universities, rather than you using different email addresses to create different accounts. You might even get confused and not know which one you use for which university, because you will not have access to them once the deadline passes, unless you've downloaded them and you keep all the application. So, but for me, I would advise everyone to be honest in the whole process and use one logging in address. If you have 2 or 3 email addresses, the system will allow you to include all those email addresses, just in case one get hacked, or you want to have access to it. So please do stick to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think this covers this question as well. Is it possible to apply to different universities for this scholarship? So I think our answers have covered this. Another question here. Hello, please, what level do you say what you have been doing in that particular field? What part? Okay. I think for this one, it will be somewhere in the essays that you'll be able to talk about what you've been doing. So I think when we go into some of the other essays, when you go into the career plan essay, you talk about the future. Go into the objectives and study part, you talk about what you'll be doing in school. When you're in the development impact, you talk about what you want to do. When you have your personal statement, you talk about that's mostly where you are flexible in what you talk about when it comes to the personal statement, because one of the essays is a personal statement of 500 words. It's still the same, so there's enough space to talk there. So we move into those, we'll give more details on this. We'll take a few questions and then we'll continue the discussion. Please, are Nigerians eligible for the Commonwealth scholarship? I think the answer to this in short is yes, but the full answer should be go and check the eligibility requirement on the website. I think that's the best answer. But as a Nigerian who was awarded the scholarship, I would say we are eligible, but I've not checked the eligibility requirement for this year, but it should still be there. A few more questions. What if I don't have a publication and any prize is won? Does anyone want to answer this one? Because my answer to this would be native, but I don't know.
My answer would be you have something. If you're applying and you have a degree, I'm assuming you did like a dissertation or a thesis, whatever you call it. So that's a starting point. That's a starting point of for the public. Okay, because this is a publication. Okay, if you don't have a publication, no worries. Put the others. But for the prizes, yes, if you don't have prizes, that's also okay. But just put something what I always advise people is, if you have a section and they have put a section in that application for you to put something, at least find out one or two things to add it in that application, not skipping it all together. Why are they adding it if it's not even important? So under publication and prices, what it means is anything at all that you have, that you've written, that you've, it's not published as in terms of um, those publications, in terms of those big journals or whatever it is, but anything that you've written as a person, put it under there.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. So we'll take one more question and then we'll talk about the.
That's just an addition on the same. I know there could be some who are not thinking of applying now for this scholarship. Maybe they are thinking of applying in future, but they just want to know more about the scholarship. So for such kind of people, this is the time now to start thinking of how you can meet all these nitty gritties requirements. You still have time. You can try to collaborate with those who are in academia and see if you can be able to have maybe one or two publication by the time the scholarship will be opening again next year when you are ready to apply.
Yeah, thank you. So one more question and we'll move to other discussions because I think some of the other following questions talk about other essays we've not really touched on. So I think when we discuss, we'll answer some of these questions. So what kind of prizes are recommended? Academic prizes or job-related prizes? We touched on this a little bit, and it's basically put it all,
Mm-hmm.
put it all there. Even if it was a voluntary organization, or even if it was a religious body, or it was a charity organization, and you won a prize for something, it's not really about the title on the prize. It's more about the fact that you are an achiever and
Mm-hmm.
you've been able to achieve something in a place where you have created impact, because we're all talking about impact. So even if it was I don't know, maybe when you were
Best
in primary,
employee of the month.
employee of the month, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe when you people were in primary school, you are the one that always kept the class tidy and they recognized you for that. It's not, yeah, because it shows that you are capable of doing great things if you are given the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. I think that is the whole point.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to really know if you are the best overall student in your class. That's not exactly what they are looking for, because you might have not been the best, you might have been the second best or the third best, or you might not have even come close. But that doesn't mean that you are not capable of creating impact. And I think that is the most important thing that they want to know, that you are capable of creating impact if you are given an opportunity. So anywhere that you've gotten a prize, I think you should just list it.
Mm.
Just provide some context so that remember that people reading your application are based in the UK. So you might need to provide some context behind some other things that you're putting there, just so that they can have an understanding of what it is, because it might not be applicable in their own culture. But put some context behind it and just list it so that it can be there. Yeah, I think that's all I will say on this. You guys want to say anything else, or should we move on to the next group of essays?
Let's move on to, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think the next group of essays are targeted at the course you're studying in particular. So if I remember properly, there's an essay on objectives during the award. That's your personal objectives during the award. There's an essay on a study outline. There's a brief outline of what you want to study, and then they may ask you if you have any dissertation or research topics in mind. You can also talk about it there. And then there's another one that talks about your detailed plan of study, that asks you about the course you want to study, the school, what prompted you, what are the things you're planning to get out of the course, etc. So we'll talk about these three together. I'll just briefly, I gave a brief summary, but let me just say, for the detailed plan of study, because I think that's where there's a significant difference between the shared and the master's or PhD scholarship or other scholarships. Because for the master's or PhD, you are asked to talk about three courses and rank them: first choice, second choice, and third choice, and then talk about them. So you have like think about 500 words to split between the three. But for the shared, because each application is attached to an individual course and individual university, you have the liberty to use the whole essay, the 500 words, to talk about the particular course and university you are applying to. So you can talk about what attracted you to the course or to that specific area, uh, why that particular course is important in that university, why it is significant, what kind of modules they have, maybe professors and the kind of research that they are doing there, why that particular university is a priority for you, or you can also add why the city that university is located in is a priority for you, if it has any significant value. And so you give a wholesome experience of what has brought you into that space of considering this particular course and this particular university. Because the scholarship commission has a reason why they choose the courses that they choose. Actually, in the background, before the scholarship application opens to applicants like us, universities are invited to bid and project the courses that they want the Commonwealth scholarship to partner with them on. So the universities themselves have already put forward an application of what this course does and how it relates to the themes of the Commonwealth and the SDGs and the rest of them. So this is your own opportunity to also match that with your own objectives. So in that particular essay, you have enough space now. Because in the masters, you are kind of limited because you're trying to talk about three courses at the same time. But in this one, for each application, you will have to write a fresh essay. So you have more words to talk about. So I think you should leverage on that a lot. For the study outline, it's usually a shorter essay, and it's mostly about if you have an intended research topic, that is the place where you have to plug it in, give a little bit of context behind why this research is important in your country. If you don't have a well thought out research topic yet, but from your development impact, you've already started talking about the problem you want to solve, you should be able to coin something that looks like an objective research that you're or an objective. Because when you write a development impact, you're going to talk about a problem, and there's no way that one person is going to solve that problem in its entirety. So you have to pick a particular focus within that problem that you are trying to. If you want to, you can't solve world hunger. You can't decide that you will solve world hunger because a lot of things come into world hunger. Talk about farming, you talk about food preservation, you talk about the packaging, you talk about the supply chain. So you need to talk about exactly where you're going, and that will help you to focus on something in the study outline. For the objectives of the award, maybe I'll allow one of you to talk about that particularly, but I know that it's basically things that you want to achieve while you're on the award, while you're studying the course. If there's a particular, if you want to do a publication, you can talk about it there. If there's a conference you want to attend, you can talk about it there. If there's a particular professional body that you want to partner with, a particular organization in the UK that you want to work with, or there are some particular contacts you want to make, or it's like I said, if you watch the other webinar, it has been broken down. I'm just trying to be brief and summarize it so you can have an idea of what to start thinking about. But those are like the basic things that you find in this section of the scholarship essays. So I'll allow you guys to make some additions to that.
Okay. I think I'll just touch on the objectives. These objectives are dependent on you as a person. What is it that you want to do whilst you're studying? So you look at some that might be personal, some that might be academic, some that might be professional. So they don't have to be like all confined to an academic space only. Some are, for example, in terms of personal, some personal objectives might relate to your academic, might even relate to your professional. So, for example, you want to make connections with people of such a country because you've heard they're doing great in such kind of a problem that you're trying to solve. That's also one way of coining like these objectives, because you know that when you're coming to the UK, you're meeting people from different countries, and this is a platform where you can meet such kind of individuals. And also you can also talk about, for example, in academic, there are so many examples that you can also put in academic. For example, as Buchi said, conferences, attending conferences in your area, or maybe they also look at the structure of your course itself. Some courses have also like work placements that are compulsory for you to do. So you might also even talk about that you're looking forward to working with that kind of organization because it's going to give you these others. If it doesn't have that, you can also include, you do your research in terms of the course that you're going after. Do your research, what it provides, what are the alternatives, and then talk about such kind of issues to be like some of the objectives. Another objectives is also like having fun, knowing UK, what is it that you want to visit. Some other things that you can also put. Also, these other issues that you are doing here. For example, my other objectives was for me to partner with other students who are Commonwealth beneficiaries and hold these uh, mentorship sessions for more people to apply. So that's another objective. So this is me trying to fulfill the objectives that I put in my essay. So you can write you can think of as many objectives as you can, ranging from academic, personal, professional, anything. Just make sure that you fit into the word count that they've given you. So another one, talking about the study outline, as Buchi has said, that one at least make sure that if you don't have like a well-structured dissertation topic, you can just say that you want to do a research in this area with these kind of outcomes because these are some of the problems. So it just write a small, because the section already it has like a few words. So you just want to be straightforward in terms of the problem that you want to research on, how your research will also contribute to solving that kind of issue. Because as you're saying, this is one way of you also starting working on towards contributing to the solving of that problem is through your dissertation or through your research itself, because that's another way of contributing to the body of knowledge and also to influence like policy. So that's you starting working on the impact that you say you're going to achieve after you finish your studies. Yeah.
Yeah. So my little addition will be, for this part of the essay, the whole idea is that they want to understand if you have done a thorough research about the course that you want to do and you know exactly what you want to get from that course. So the starting point is for you to do a detailed research about the course. What kind of skills are you going to gain from that course? And then come up with the objectives. As Chimwemwe has mentioned, you need to come up with the objectives that are academically related and off academics. You want maybe to network with other professionals, or maybe you want to benefit from other opportunities that the Commonwealth scholarship and the university do provide. How can you research about that? If you follow the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission on LinkedIn, or you follow them on Twitter, I think they are more active on Twitter, you'll be able to see what kind of activities they post that those who are studying in the UK are doing. They usually attend a number of developmental impact training. They do a number of networking. All such can be part of your objective, and you want to attend those kind of activities so that you gain some skills on how to create impact when you go back to your home country. And the other thing that you need to note about this essay is that it has small nitty-gritties that you need to ensure that you answer. They'll ask you like what will be your objectives during your studies. They'll ask you what do you have any proposed kind of dissertation that you wish to study? Do you why do you want to study this university and why this course? So even as you answer this essay, ensure that all the parts of the questions are clearly answered. How are you going to ensure that you've clearly answered? You first write, then you give yourself maybe a day off without looking at the essays. Then go to the question again, get the points that this question is asking about. Okay, so this question wants me to talk about A, B, C, D. So that becomes your checkpoint. Then read through your essay and tick if you've answered all the parts of the question. That way, you have more clearly, you have a comprehensive essay that answers all the parts of this essay. That's my addition.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So we'll just take another few questions before we go to the last round of the essays. But just I saw some people asking about a link to the application. So I included this link in the, you'll see this on the comment section. So you can follow this link. It takes you straight to the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship page. And then you see all the information that we've been talking about. You see it all written out there. And then you see there's a link now to the online application system under how to apply. And then that's what takes you to the page where you have to create an account and then start your application. So make use of that link. So I think I saw some interesting questions. So let's start from this one. This is the last question before we took a break. Concerning essay 7, where we have to write about the school and course of study, do we have to write about only the proposed school for that application, or should we write about the 3 schools in each? So I think we've actually answered this question. So for each application, you write just about the school you're applying to, because you don't want to be making an application to University of Wolverhampton and then you are sending them an application that's talking about the University of Southampton, because whoever is reading the application will not understand what it means and might also perceive that you might be a careless applicant, and that might also reduce your chances. So try to make sure, if I'm to advise, if you're making application, if you're using a laptop, have a folder for each application you want to make. Don't just do copy and paste essays into the boxes. Have an application, have a folder for each application you want to make. Create separate Word documents. If you are applying to this first course, create 11 Word documents for the 11 essays, or 1 Word document with all the essays inside. Then duplicate that for the next scholarship essay and start from the beginning to go through everything again to make sure that it's in line with the second application, and you can do that for the third and for the fourth. So don't mention one university in the application for another university, because obviously if it's also competitive. And if I was on a panel for the University of Southampton and I get an application and the person is talking about he applied to Wolverhampton and he applied to Bradford and he applied to Sussex, and I know that we have only one shot to get somebody for this course, and this person might actually get it at Sussex, so maybe we should consider a different applicant. So don't shoot yourself in the leg. So just, if you're applying to University of Bradford, make sure everything you're writing is about the University of Bradford so that it can be specific and focused.
I just wanted to add on this one. Another key thing is to understand that these applications are going to specific universities. So what it means when Bush is saying start from the beginning to the end, it's not S7 where you're going to write about that university. It's starting from the developmental impact essay where you're mentioning about that university and about that course, specifically that university. So don't talk about, when you're writing Commonwealth Shared Scholarship essays, make sure that you are very specific towards that essay. Those essays are tailored to that university. So if this university says international development and another one says international social development, those ones are 2 different courses. But you've started, oh, I want to study international development at your university, and then the school will be like, no, this is not the course. This is not how we coin it at this university. So make sure from the top to the end, that university is all over in your application, not just in essay number 7.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very, very important point. We have this question here. From your explanation, Ma, are we to say that publication is the same as community service that you have done so far? This question, I'm not sure how to answer this question.
By Ma, I think it means me. Eh?
Oh, so it's for you. So go ahead.
No. So publication is, take it as anything that you've written. So that's the publication. I get that community service is what you do after you finish your undergrad in Nigeria, yeah? Right? Something that
Yeah, we have national service in Nigeria.
yes. So I think that one will go towards volunteering or work experience or something like that. But when it comes to publication, we are talking about something that you've written and it's out there, whether it's a report form or whether it's a dissertation or anything else that you've written. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can take prizes from community service and you fail
Yes.
the prizes section.
Yes.
Okay, there's another interesting question here. What if I have other professional qualification in addition to the undergraduate degree? Where can I put it in the application? Billy, do you want to answer this one?
Well, it depends, I think, with the kind of professional qualifications that you're talking about. However, when you look at the criteria for grading your application, when it comes to qualification, they are most looking at your academic qualification. So, if you feel that they will be able to add something to your application, you can still include them under the section where you are going to include your undergraduate, or if you have a master's, you have a master's, and then ensure that when you upload the document, you also upload those qualifications. Then you can also provide, I think there should be a tab where you have to explain if you've studied somewhere else outside your country, you can still use that tab to just explain what you mean by what you've included up there on the professional qualification, so that it's more clear to them that this is a professional qualification and not an academic qualification.
Yeah.
Another way also I would advise in terms of how you can include professional qualifications is under the places. So for example, if at your workplace you were nominated to attend a certain seminar, or it was like a training that gave you that certificate, so that applies. So you can explain it under there. So that's also another way of incorporating professional qualifications into your application. Or you look at some other ways in terms of how you're writing your essays themselves. You can talk about such kind of issues in your write-up or anything else if you don't find an area in the actual application itself, the other ways where you want to add in or something like that. But I would say if they're saying in terms of certificates, what they want are the academic certificates. So those are the ones that are needed. All these other professional qualifications, you can mention them here and there in your application and just know where to put them, where to put what, because some of these things you might not include everything that you have. Just be mindful and select the ones that you feel will make your application stronger and know where to put them. Can you just mention them in your essay, or do you have to mention them under the prizes and publications, those under the prizes section? So you put also a bit of context, as Bushi has said, because some of these professional qualifications have names that people here will not even understand. What is this professional qualification all about? So you also have to put in a bit of context for them to understand where this was coming in from. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Another interesting question. Can one sustainable development goal be used for all three spaces provided, or must it be three different sustainable development goals? I
No.
want to answer this question in two ways. The first one is if your impact is only directed at one goal, then your impact is very limited. So even if it was possible, it's not advisable to do that. The second thing, if I remember, if the form still remains the same, when you're uploading your SDGs, is a drop-down menu. So you click and then you select. And once you select SDG 1 in the first box, SDG 1 becomes unavailable in the box 2 and box 3. So I think already the form has that restriction that the three of them have to be separate for the application to go forward. So the advice is simple. There's no way that you have an impact that is not wholesome enough to cut across at least three goals. Because like I gave the earlier example, road safety, even though road safety is an infrastructure-based thing, because it's from the engineering point of view, it also fell under the health side of things. And then so you have to find a way, because even the SDG number 17 that talks about strengthening partnerships and institutions can be a very strong SDG that cuts across almost everything that everyone does in impact. So you just need to read the SDGs properly and understand how to link them. And even when you're writing your essays, I would always advise mention the SDG target within the essay when you're talking about this problem. The problem is targeted at SDG, this target, this that states that we should achieve this. Because most of those targets have a timeline. And I think most of the SDGs, the timeline is 2030. And this application is 2024. So you're already very close to the end date. So you can also write about the urgency with which this goal needs to be met. And you can also, if you do your research very well, you can pull statistics of how far the goal has been achieved, where they are now, and what needs to be done to get to the benchmark by 2030, and pull that into your application. It's a very strong way of showing that you actually understand where the impact is coming from and where it should be going to, and that you are very much invested in pulling that off. So I think the short answer to this is no.
Yeah, so
The wrong answer is what you've provided.
just a few addition. The best way of you listing those is to ensure that you have identified the gap. When you identify a gap, go through the SDGs and read which of those SDGs will be able to close up the gap from the skills that you're going to gain from that course that you're applying for. And I can clearly tell you that if this scholarship is for those who are in the Commonwealth countries, and most of them are coming from the lower middle income countries. And one of the issues that is there is issues with the education. We don't have more qualified lecturers. So whatever course that you can pick, you can contribute to SDG. Is it 4 or 5 that talks about education? So if you are from the health background, you can select SDG 3. Automatically, you can come and contribute as a lecturer. You get SDG 4 also as part of what you select. Then you can also add on SDG 17, which is again generic, like he has mentioned. And there you have your 3 selected. But as you write, ensure that you link the impact that you want to create to those 3 SDGs that you select.
The only thing I wanted to add to say is don't be lazy. Go and read the SDGs. And the other thing is when you've identified a problem already, it will give you what problem is it? Is it about health? So when you go to the SDGs, you find an SDG to do with health. Is it about agriculture? When you go to the SDGs, it's going to take you to that. So the thing is, just know your problem and know how you're going to solve it. By the time you know how to solve it, if you just write the first essays, you will know the developmental impact essays. By writing those ones, you would have figured out where the SDGs how this one is relating to which and what. And by you selecting the 3 SDGs, it's just to make your work easier. Otherwise, some of these problems are touching all the 17 SDGs, but they're saying just give us 3 that are the main ones that will touch your problem. But essentially, for us who are coming from low income countries, we know that all the SDGs are the ones that are we have to we are very far from achieving them, but we are at least somewhere to achieving them also. So yeah.
Yeah. So just one more thing that I forgot. Again, as you are writing your developmental impact essay, if you feel the SDGs are not good enough for you, or you want to identify a gap that your course will fill in, and you are coming from Africa, in the settings of Africa, there is again what we call the Agenda 2063. So you can go and read about the Agenda 2063. It will give you a comprehensive agenda that Africa wants to achieve by 2063. So you can also link your impact, you can link how you are going to contribute to some of those points that we want to achieve by 2063 as Africa. They are definitely related to the SDGs again. That's a good thing about them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what month will the scholarship be awarded? This is a question I cannot answer because I don't work for CSC. That I
Just
think
looking at
usual timeline is from April. Imagine the usual timeline is from the month of April.
I was just saying, usually it's next year around June or something. But by the end of the day, you start your studies in September. So just be on the lookout. By September, August, most of the universities would have started. So yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's a year, almost like a year-long process, more or less, like the application for you to start. You start from this September to the next September. So in between, the results will be out. Usually, it's from June, mostly from June. But then the process that comes after will depend on the university that you're going. So
Yeah,
June,
I think
July.
one other process that we know is if you get the letter by that June and you are either nominated or on the reserve list, there will also be a deadline for your references to be submitted. So that is also something that you need to think about. So I always tell people, always be in touch with your referees. If you've submitted someone's details on this form, be in touch with the person so that the person can promptly respond when the time comes, because there will be a deadline, and that is also another way they use to cut down on candidates.
Yeah.
So also put that in mind so that you will not miss out after getting so close to the goal. So try to also develop a very strong relationship with your referees, and also be watching your email so that when you have the full time to work, I think it's usually a 2-week or 3-week window. So
Yeah.
you need to
I nearly
be
missed mine. It went to spam. I saw it 5 days later.
Yeah. So just an addition, definitely you are going to get a response next year. Why is it so? Because when you go back to the website, that's why we are emphasizing on you reading the information on the website. The timeline that is given briefly on the website is that by 15th of November, the scholarship opens. 14th December, the scholarships closes. So if you are planning to submit your application, you should ensure that you submit before 14th of December. Afterwards, the university will be given time now to read through your essays, your application, and select you as either a nominated candidate or a reserve candidate, and they are mandated to submit that list to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission by March 2024. So that is the period most universities will start emailing those that they've nominated, that you've been nominated and your name has gone to the commission. However, this is not the final process, as the commission, they have their own process where they will have to sift through the application and also request for the references and everything. So from March 2024, you should be able to start receiving whether you've been nominated or you've been put on reserve. But like Chimwemwe said, usually between May to June, towards the month end of May and in June, that is when the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission is going to finally conditionally award people. So you will first be on a conditional award. From condition, once you meet the condition that they need, then they will give you a notice of an award. From the notice of an award, then they will give you the final award.
Yeah.
That is before September. Then in September, you'll be able now to start.
Just addition on that one, I've just remembered the universities telling someone they've nominated them for the scholarship, and then it happened that they were told. Then a second email comes in. No, we are withdrawing because one of the conditions was for you to have an upper class degree or something like that. They went back to the eligibility criteria. I think it's after now Commonwealth said, no, this person, yes, is very good. The essays were good, but the under our eligibility that doesn't meet. So it was a shattering moment, after you've got that university saying we have nominated you, and then the Commonwealth goes back and sees the criteria, and then they're like, okay, no. So please double check everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very important point. So
Yeah.
we have this question. I think we've been getting this AI question for a while
Mm.
on our webinars. And my instinct will always be ChatGPT or AI or whatever AI tool you want to use is a tool. It's a tool. It's the same thing like Microsoft Word. It's the same tool like Grammarly spell checker. It's a tool. It's not going to write the essay for you. Because if you've listened to all we've said here now, you understand that your essays have to be a reflection of who you are and a wholesome reflection of the journey you want to take. And there has to be elements of yourself written into the essay for it to flow naturally. Because when someone looks at your application, they're going to look at the whole application. They're going to look at your name. They're going to look at the country where you come from. They're going to look at the SDGs you promote. They're going to look at your undergraduate degree. They're going to look at everything.
The work
So,
that you've done.
yeah. So everything together forms one application. If you've used ChatGPT before, then you will understand the way it works. It's whatever prompt you give it is whatever is going to give you back. So if you just take the scholarship question, for example, and just paste it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT can write 500 words for you that align very well and are grammatically correct, but it will not tell the story that you want to tell. So like every tool, the way you use the tool is what's going to determine the output you get from it. So there's no yes or no answer. I can't say don't use Microsoft Word to type your essay. I can't say don't use Grammarly to spell check your essay. So I wouldn't say don't use ChatGPT or AI. What I would say, use it the right way it's supposed to be used. Don't outsource the creation of your essay to an AI tool because it's not going to give you what you want.
Yeah.
So in short, just be cautious as you are using these softwares. So even them, the Scholarship Commission, they do understand that we are in a digital world, we are evolving. So even them, you might find that their application system is able to use softwares that are able to detect if you've written your essays or maybe used another AI software to write it for you, and they will be able to detect. I know, like most of the universities in the UK, their plagiarism softwares are able to detect if the essay is written by ChatGPT. So just be cautious as you are using these softwares.
So imagine everyone else has prompted the ChatGPT or whatever it is to prompt write their essay. In that essay, that same line is available in each and everyone's essay. So even without going to these to these plagiarism checkers or everything else, they'll just say, okay, these essays are similar, one and same thing. So I remember also chatting to a certain lecturer here who also a professor who said the first year students, particularly undergrads, they'll just take a question that they've been given and put in ChatGPT and produce an essay and then it comes. They don't even bother putting it in a plagiarism checker because it will be like a similar essay for each and everyone. So, as everyone has said, just be conscious. Write your story and write it properly. They will not punish you for like a few grammatical errors as long as it's been written by you. So if you miss a there somewhere, if you miss an A or something like that, as long as the story is real, it's coming from you, it's going to be shown on that paper.
Yeah. A few more questions to go. I think short answer to this one is also yes. I know people that applied for shared and also applied for masters. So there's no restriction on applying
Yeah.
for either. You can apply for both. So if you applied for masters previously, you can also apply for shared if you see a course there that interests you.
Hmm.
Few
Yeah.
more questions.
Even when the distance scholarship opens, you can still apply for it also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have this one. Application fee. Hmm. This particular question, whenever I come across it, I always tell people it's a two-way thing. First of all, if the university, there's a list of universities now, so it's up to you to choose where you want to go. So if one university has a barrier of application fee and you cannot pay, you might have to choose something else. If you can pay, it's an investment in your future. So you pay your application fee and you get the scholarship, they are going to pay the tuition fees, they're going to pay for your living expenses. So if it's something that you can put in for that, because this, if a university has an application fee, it means that there will be less people applying to that one. So that means your own chances personally should go up. All things being equal, mathematically, your chances should go up. So it might be a strategy that you use to get it, but there's no one answer for everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can write to the university and tell them you are applying for a scholarship. Can they waive the application fee for you? Some universities can respond and say, okay, since you're applying for a scholarship to do for this course to our university, we'll waive the application fee for you. So it's also an option. But if they don't waive it and you can pay it, you can also pay it. All these things are part of the investment into your future. So I think it's a personal choice at the end of the day of what you can or cannot do. But like I say, whatever sacrifice you're going to make to try to get this scholarship, it is worth the sacrifice. So I would advise that you jump on it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And just to add on that, if you decide that you want to go to that university and you're going to pay that application fee, so before you pay, so that you do not waste your money, that's why we are emphasizing the issue of research. So go again back to the university website. Everything is provided. Do a thorough research on that course. Are you eligible for that course? Are you meeting all the criteria they need in that course? Because if you pay that application fee, you apply and you still get rejected because you didn't meet the eligibility criteria, then you would have wasted your money. So before you decide to invest that money in yourself, do a thorough research on that course and ensure that you meet all the eligibility criteria, you have all the documents that they need. When you apply, you easily get the admission. That way, you would have spent that money in a good way.
Yeah. I'm just assuming, imagine you not paying to the university that could have gone easily, and then you decide to go to a university which doesn't have a fee, but it has so many restrictions on the eligibility criteria. So it's just a matter of just weighing, as the other two have said. Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll take this question and then we'll talk about the last essays and then come back to any remaining questions. So this is another question that has been answered, but I also want us to explicitly make it clear. I think Chimamanda was the one that answered this one the best way when she said, for each application, go back, read it. You can't, there's, first of all, there's no way that you submit 11 essays, word for word, to different institutions and it's going to work. Because you have to mention the name of the course somewhere. You have to mention the name of the institution somewhere. You have to mention some of the objectives somewhere. You have to mention some course modules, professors, research. You have to talk about the city, the university. So, no, you cannot do word for word because it won't work. It's a weak application. If you write generic essays, totally generic essays that can be used word for word for all of them, then it means that your whole application is weak across the board.
Yeah.
So it should be more of adapting each essays for each course and each university. Some sentences will remain the same. Some whole paragraphs might even remain the same, depending on what you're talking about. But it can't be everything word for word. So try to use your judgment to know where to adjust and where to shift things around to match the objectives of what you're applying for. I think it's very important that you always try to match the objectives. Like I said, two courses might have the same name in different universities, but they are not actually talking about the same thing. I think I had a friend that had a situation where he came to study a course and was complaining that the content she's getting from the course is not what she bargained for. That's not what she expected, you know. And perhaps if she went to study the same course at a different university, it might be more directed at what she was expecting. But it's because the modules and the content, if you read line by line through the university website, you might see that, oh, they're talking about this, but it's not really, they're not specifically going in this direction that I want to go for. So you need to also check through those things, and those things will form part of the essays that you're going to write.
Yeah,
Uh,
that one I would also agree. I agree in terms of my course, international development. It's every most universities will have it in the UK. But when I was applying, specifically, I was going down into the modules. I found out that international development in another university, they were talking much more on sexual reproductive health. Others were more general on water and sanitation issues. Others climate change issues. Others sustainability issues. It's just a matter of you picking the course that talks to what you hope to achieve. So it will save you a lot in terms of like Pucha said, save you a lot of frustrations when you come and you start studying. So you might get the scholarship, yes, you're happy and everything is good. And then you come here to be frustrated with a course for a year long, something which you do not bargain for. That's why at this stage, make thorough research for each and everything. So if you are writing your applications and you write word for word, it means you haven't gone back to the university website, to the course itself, to read the modules. What is it that the modules are talking about? Because that one will give you a better idea of what you hope to achieve when you study that course. It's not about just looking at the title. Go to the modules. It will save you a lot of time. It will save you a lot of energy. It will solve everything. Yeah.
yeah. I think let me just add one more point to this to emphasize why it's important to go and read. When I was a student, I was in a meeting and the department was planning on opening a new course. And when they want to open a new course, they had the first part was what are the objectives of this course, and the second part of the process was to go and find out if these objectives that we've set are being met by any other course in any other university in the UK. So they go and check and come back and say, okay, this university is offering this, but they don't have this and they don't have that. This other university is offering this and they don't have this and they don't have that. And then they form their new course around what is missing here and what is missing there. So that because it's the universities like it's the universities are competitive here, they compete with each other. So if your neighbor is offering the same course and you are offering exactly the same thing, why would students come to you instead of going there? So everyone's trying to attract students. So everyone always they always try to put something different in their own that makes it stand out from what others are offering. So the same name everywhere, but like she just said, there is all international available. But maybe this university has, these people are talking about the girl child. Let us talk about hunger. Let us move towards natural disasters. Let us move towards this. So all the same name but different content. So you need to actually do your research and check. This one is, I said this one shared is somewhat easier because they have shortlisted for you. It's different from the masters where you are going the length and breadth of all courses in the UK to see what you want. But shared has kind of shortlisted for you. So you have a short list of, and then from the list of shared has provided, you can now pick the ones you want to research on and then work on those ones. So it's easier for you to pick 6, 7, 8, 10, or just 2, depending on what is calling to you, and then go and research on those ones. If you're applying for masters, it will be a situation where maybe you think you've seen the course you wanted, and then during your research you see this other course, and then you jump to this other university website, and then you start reading this one and it starts looking interesting, and then you say, oh no, this is what I want, and then you jump to the next one, because there's always elements of different things everywhere. But for shared, they've given you a list, so make use of that list, but try to do an in-depth study so that it can help you very well with this application. So I can see that our time is running short, so we'll take the last 4 essays, which are the career plan, short-term and long-term career plan, the personal statement, and the voluntary and leadership experience essay. So to make it easier, I think we'll just take it one each, so that we don't spend much time talking about the 3 of them, and then we can try to answer all the remaining questions. So maybe I will allow Billy to talk about the career plan, long-term and short-term. And then maybe Chinwe will talk about the personal statement, and then I can just come back and finish up with the voluntary and leadership experience. So Billy.
Okay. Yeah, so when it comes to your career plan, you should ensure that generally, as you write your career plan, you bring out the skills that you have gained in your master's, and you show how you apply them throughout your journey now, post-graduation. So the career plan has to be segmented into 3 parts. You need to have your short-term plan, your mid-term plan, and your long-term plan. I know the question on the website to just provide your short-term plan and also the long-term plan. But within your short-term plan, you can segment your immediate plan and your medium-term plan. Then in the other essay, you just write about your long-term plan. The best way of doing it is to use the SMART approach. I'm sure those who have been following have been mentioning using the SMART approach most of the time. So S will stand for being specific, M being for whatever you are explaining being measurable, A will be for attainable. It should be able to be attainable. R will stand for being realistic. So whatever you are explaining that you want to come and do, A, B, C, D, it has to be realistic. They do not expect you to come and change the whole world with the little skills that you would have gained in your master. So you have to be realistic even as you are giving your plan. And T will be time frame. So you need to, that's why I'm saying you need to segment your essays. Your immediate plan would be maybe 1 to 2 years post-graduation. How are you going to use your skills? Then 2 to 5 years will be your mid-term plan. Again, you should be able to demonstrate growth from your immediate plan to your mid-term plan. Even as you go into your long-term plan, which can be maybe over 7 years after you've graduated, again, it has to be smart in the way you write it. So ensure you demonstrate that you are going to apply the skills in the areas that you had mentioned of applying them, especially in your developmental essay. And that is where now you need to ensure that your developmental impact essay is linked to the career plan. Whatever you had said in your developmental impact essay, try to show that you are going to work on meeting that. as you write your career plan. So your career plan needs to be very straight and very specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and there should be a time frame that should be attached to it. So it should be very clear on what you want to do. I think that is a summary for me.
Yeah, thank you. I
Okay.
think for the career plan is basically like he has said, it's everything needs to be time bound. I think in the essay prompt itself will ask you, what are your plans immediately after you return to your country? What will you do in the next 5 years? What are your long-term goals? So make sure you answer for each section. Chinwe, so you can talk about the personal statement.
Okay. So for the personal statement, this is now where you showcase you. Now you're trying to market yourself. Now they want to put like a face to the person who has been writing these things. So because they are not seeing you, but they still have to have like a human touch to that. So I think the prompt says that you should at least show the circumstances and how you overcome them, and you go on to write about the other things. So what I would say is, firstly, you have to identify some of the challenges that you faced, for example, in your academic journey to or in your life circumstances, and how you also have managed to overcome that. So the thing is, it's not just about you talking to Commonwealth and telling them, say, okay, I have faced this problem in my life and it doesn't have any solution. No, they want to see that this person has had a rough start in life, but they overcome that, and this is where they are heading to. So that's where the personal statement comes in. So when you're going, after you've outlined your personal circumstance, what you have achieved, it also tie into what else that you want to solve in that particular area that you have. So you can also talk about and then go on to talk about how some of the other key achievements that you have had in your life. So, for example, you also talk about your school journey in there, whatever it is that you have undergraduate, how you what have you done with that, some of the work that you have done, and also how you're looking forward to having this masters that you're hoping to attain at this school. So it's mostly like telling them the whole journey of your life, what you've achieved in between, and what you hope to achieve after you have finished. So you have finished your education. So it's not like a repetition of what you've written in these other essays, but this is just a matter of giving them an overview of your personality into that essay itself. I hope I've answered it correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a good summary. I would also say that remember, I think maybe I should post the link to the other webinar again, just in case people still need to find the link. So I'll post it again on the comments. So just follow that link to the YouTube channel and find that essay. The essays, find that webinar. Sorry, the essays were treated in very much depth discussion. And then it will give you, if you have any small underlying questions, it might help in answering those, because here we're just trying to summarize. So I'll talk about the last part, which is the volunteer and leadership experience. And this one is basically a place where they asked you to talk about any volunteering or any leadership experience you've had previously. You should just, and you it's not much of uh, uh, discussion, but it's more about listing out your achievements as succinctly or as compactly as possible. So it's a 500-word essay if it's still the same, and you have those 500 words to put in all the volunteer experience you've done and all the leadership experience you've done. And I'll just say this: provide context and make it smart. Make the highlight the important parts of what you did at every role. Just look at it like you're writing it, you're trying to put those things into a CV, because 500 words sounds like a lot, but when you start writing, you might spend 200 or 300 words talking about one thing. So try as much as possible to put things in there. And if it's possible, if you've mentioned something in your personal statement or in your development impact, because of those word restrictions that those essays have, maybe you'll talk about development impact and you referenced when you worked in a particular organization or when you worked at a particular place. That's when you discovered that this was a major problem, but you didn't have enough space to give context to that. And if it was a volunteer position or it was a leadership position, you can now come into this space and give a proper context of what happened in that role. And the most important thing is to always pick what is relevant. So you obviously you've lived a long life and you've had a lot of experiences both in leadership and in volunteering, but not everything might be as relevant as others. So you need to pick and choose what is the most relevant thing that you're going to use those 500 words to talk about, because these things are also part of well, look at it this way: the Commonwealth scholarship is trying to be charitable towards you, and then they have to see that you have exhibited such qualities towards others as well. So you've been a leader, which means you've sacrificed your time, you've sacrificed your initiative, you've taken on some responsibilities on behalf of others, or you've volunteered, which means you've done some work where you are not paid, and that's in quotes qualifies you to be an agent of impact, because most of these development impacts will require you to make some personal sacrifices where there might be no economic or commercial benefit. So you also need to show that you've participated in such activities, which makes you a good candidate to take on some of these things. So it's not a very technical one, but you have to think about what kind of content you want to put in, because I always see it as an extension of the personal statement. You're talking about yourself, but now you need to tell them what have you been doing with your life? What exactly qualifies you to be an agent of impact? You've identified a problem, you've packaged it very well, you've talked about the solution, you've said you're going to study this course, you've given them your full career plan. The career plan is what's supposed to benefit you as a person, because your career is a personal thing. But now you have to show a track record where in between your career, you've also done some things outside economic or commercial value that has benefited the society. So in as much as you are an ambitious person that has a strong career and that's going to motivate you, you also have the passion to give back to society and to the community where you are. So that is basically what you're trying to show in this space. And it's just a matter of choosing the right examples to put in and talking about them with the proper context. So it's basically just that way. So I think that's most of it for all the essays. So we'll try to answer. I was trying to answer a few questions in the comment section. I think there's a few other ones that should I want to highlight. We may not be able to answer everything because I think there are a lot of them, but let me try to highlight a few ones that seem to be peculiar.
Hmm.
Uh, this one was one of them. So, what response do you provide when you are asked if you intend to stay after your studies? I'm assuming this stay means to stay in the UK after your studies.
Hmm.
I think one of the
Yeah.
conditions of the scholarship is that you will return back to your home country after studies to be an agent of impact, which you have already written about. I think okay, this is also a place where I want to point out a very important point. When you're writing your development impact, the strongest way to write about it is to make it specific to your home country. Don't talk about a problem that is not close to home, because you can't be in Nigeria and you're trying to solve a problem in Indonesia. There's no real context there. You understand? And the scholarship is aimed at people contributing back to their home countries. So you will go back to your home country after the scholarship is a prerequisite. If you're not planning to go back to your home country after the scholarship, then this scholarship is essentially not for you. It's one of the eligibility requirements. So also think about that when you're applying. But it is a non-negotiable condition. I think that's the right word to use. It's a non-negotiable condition. So they won't ask you, they won't ask you if you intend to stay or not. So
Mhm.
by you submitting your application, you've agreed to that terms and conditions. You've ticked that box. So I don't think there's any negotiation going on there.
Agreed.
Yeah. If you intend to stay in the UK, do not apply. Or find another one that will make you eligible to
Yeah,
stay. Or pay for yourself. That's another good way of staying in the UK after your studies.
yeah. I think I saw this question. I'm not. Can one include a link towards a tech project? This question was. Look, I think this question came up before. A tech project. I'm assuming a tech project to be something like maybe a website design or a code that you've built or something like that. And I guess if it is relevant to the course, yeah, if you are studying something in that space and you
Mm.
have a portfolio, because I know people in tech have portfolios, people in architecture have portfolios that they use when they attach to applications. So if you have a personal portfolio, I think it's also relevant when you're applying to this type of thing that you can also include it under the space for publication and prizes. Or if there's a space in the form that allows you to attach any additional or any other thing with context, I think you can also provide that there. I don't know if you guys have any idea if something like this is on the form.
Yeah, I think I would also take it to the publication and prizes if there's anything, because right there I think you can more or less like write anything that you think it's applicable to the application itself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So we have this one. I think this is similar to a previous question.
Yeah. I think the thing is the essay ideas might be the same. You cannot change like a lot of things, but the thing is we have talked about this. The shared scholarship is geared towards certain courses and certain universities. So what you need to do is take the same essays as a starting point and tailor them towards that university. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe just a small addition on that one would be that you might be applying for the same course that you applied through the Commonwealth General Scholarship, and it is the same that is eligible again on the shared scholarship. You can apply, like she has mentioned, the ideas will be the same. But when it comes to the course justification, you're not going to include those other two universities that you had included in that other application. So those are some of the differences that you're going to include, just like we've been stressing through. So try to ensure that you at least make an application that suits that course application only. And everything should flow from the information that you put in your developmental impact up to the last essay.
Mm.
Okay. Another question. Does the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship conduct interviews before the final selection? I
The
don't remember going for an interview.
But the schools, some schools do conduct interviews. I've heard of some schools conducting interviews for the admission process. And it can be before the application itself, before you complete the application itself, they might say, okay, can you send some of your documents? And they conduct the interviews, preliminary interviews, and they say, okay, you can now go ahead apply as well as apply for an admission. So some others have those kind of arrangements. It's just a matter of which school you're applying to. Others, no, they will not. But the Commonwealth Secretariat itself does not conduct interviews. It's only dependent on the university that you're applying for. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, this takes us back to our area point that you need to do a thorough research about these universities before you apply.
Mm.
Okay. Next question. If the scholarship is awarded by June, when can one start application for visa? I think this one comes with the award.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they send you the award letter, then they tell you how to go about the visa application process. So
Mm.
don't worry about visa application. It's not
Yeah.
going to be an issue. The Commonwealth Scholarship Commission and the British Council in your home country are in close partnership. So they
Mm.
will provide the documents you need for visa application and tell you when to start and how to go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in some very extreme situations, if you get your award very close to the end of the deadline, they can also help you facilitate a visa appointment and stuff like that. So if you are awarded, you will be in communication with them and they'll be able to help you out with all those immigration processes.
Yeah. So there's no need of worrying about the visa at the moment. I did mention. I think we didn't mention. Maybe when you look at the benefits of being awarded, this is a full scholarship. So one of the benefits is that they'll help you with a flight from your home country up to the nearest airport in the UK, which is near to your university, and also transport from the airport up to your university. And also, when you're going back to your home country, to be the same thing. They'll give you a monthly stipend that is usually changing every year, and other benefits. One of the benefits, once you get awarded, is that they will give you information on how to apply for visa, and they will also support you. There's even a separate process that you're going to use, which is not uh, applicable to someone who is not a Commonwealth scholar or a Chevening scholar, because that process is only for Commonwealth scholars, Chevening scholars, and Marshall scholar awardees. So there will be a separate process that you follow to upload, and you will not be able to pay a visa fee. So those are some of the benefits that you get. So do not worry about a visa at the moment. Worry about making a strong application and meeting all the requirements for you to be awarded. And once you're awarded in June, then that's when now the issue of the visa will come in. And the whole process of visa application, you are going to be assisted.
Okay. I think this was an interesting question. I think we
Mm.
mentioned reserve, but we didn't take it to the fact that some people may not understand what being a reserve is. So
Okay.
as a former reserve candidate, let me explain what a reserve is.
So you want to reserve? Good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So ideally, every course on the shared scholarship website has a number of slots that they want to award. Most of the time, it may be one slot, some are two, some are three, so maybe more. So if the scholarship is awarded, because of it's a year-long process, if they award the first person and that person does not accept the award, it means that that university may lose out on having a scholarship candidate. So what they do is they have people on a reserve list.
On backup.
So yeah, so you are a backup candidate in case the main candidate does not accept the award, which comes back to the point of being nominated by multiple universities. So if you are nominated by multiple universities, then that means there are people that are reserves behind you at those universities as well. So if you got 3 university nominations, you will be able to choose only one at the end of the day. And when you choose one, that means you have to reject the other two. And when you reject the other two, whoever is put on reserve for those two will be upgraded to now come and take up that scholarship. So that's the way it works. So
Just to
if
mention.
so,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, yeah, so if when you get your information in June, the email will state whether you have been nominated or whether you have been put on reserve. But once you have been put on reserve, they will also tell you what process to take to be waiting in case the nominated person does not respond. So it's not a very technical thing. It's just that you're a backup candidate. And
Mm.
some reserves will get upgraded, people like myself that eventually got upgraded, while some may not. So when you're put on reserve, you also know that it's a 50-50 game of whether or not you're going to get the scholarship.
I wanted to say that being put on a reserve doesn't necessarily mean that you did not have a good application. What it means is they also look at the scholarship application window has many scholarships, and most people are applying to multiple scholarships, as well as in this scholarship, people are applying to multiple universities. So every scholarship knows that there might be some other scholars that may opt out and select another scholarship, for example, and others who might be nominated by others, and they choose other schools in this way. So being put on a reserve, as he has said, is for you to just say you are nearer to the finishing line and also out of the game if the West comes to the West. But otherwise, they want to make sure that they have people that can take up the scholarship should anyone else, the other person, not fail to take it. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, so few more questions. Please, which of the nominated universities do not require IELTS from Nigerian applicants, or is IELTS required by all nominated universities?
That is the thing to do a research on the university.
Yeah. Yeah. The good thing is, as we've said, Commonwealth shared scholarship has made the issues so simpler. One key thing, if you don't want to go through the whole list of universities, you go by the theme. Which problem are you trying to solve and it relates to which theme? You got by the universities under those themes. You find that the universities are so few. So you just go by one university by one university by another, and then you see it. But another thing is, you cannot put yourself out just because you don't have an English language certificate, because you can easily get it if you want it. So because the investors are too few, this one should not be something that you should not apply to that university, because it does require this English language. Yeah.
Yeah. So in short, what he's trying to say is that you can request for an exemption. You can email the International Academics Office, or whatever they are called in that university, to request for an exemption, and maybe you get a reference letter, or maybe a letter to justify why you should be exempted from the university where you did your undergraduate, to just explain that you did your undergraduate in English, and therefore you are requesting for an exemption. Some university, they will accept that, and they'll be able to exempt you from you providing English requirement. Other universities will still insist that you meet the English requirement. For those that insist, you just have to do whatever type of English requirement they need. But it could be a good option to explore if you can request for an exemption by providing a letter from the university where you did your undergraduate, or if they accept, like in my country where we have what we call a grade 12, where you write your higher education, like at grade 12. So that will show that you were studying your courses in English from your primary to your tertiary education. Other universities will still accept your grade 12 English results as something that they can use to waive off the IELTS requirement. So you can also explore that option.
Yeah. Let me just simply say that this session is being recorded, and it will be available on the YouTube channel for as long as possible, just like the previous session. So if you go on the YouTube channel, you can also watch previous sessions that have been had. Like I said, there was a session that talked about the essays in depth. There was a session that talked about the Chevening scholarship. So maybe if you're planning to do applications next year, it's a very useful resource for you. We also had a session where people talked about their scholarship journey and how the things they did and did not do, or the things they avoided, the tips that they dropped. So we have those sessions on the YouTube channel. So Sorry. So you just go there, but the recording will be on YouTube, just like all the other ones. Few more questions. Okay, I think we just answered this question.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
this one.
But again,
I'm not sure.
yeah,
You were saying something.
yeah, on that, see, the previous question, you can try and use that, but again, you just have to ask the university if they'll be able to get that.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
you
think
ask the university.
this one depends. It always depends. Everything. There's
Yeah.
no hard and fast rule. I used an English proficiency letter and the West African certificate uh, for English results. So the university accepted it, but some universities do, some universities don't. It really depends.
my university did not even did not agree to that. And there are some universities might also pay for your English language tests and even refer you to other English language tests that they accept apart from IELTS.
Yeah.
So the way for you to know all of that is just you writing to them, and then they'll give you alternatives.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know what this question is referring to, so I'm not sure.
Maybe it's an addition. It's something that she asked somewhere, and this is
I think maybe the
part of the
comment came in
question.
when we were answering the question, but I I can't say. So, Chinedu, maybe you can rewrite or rephrase the full question and we'll try to answer it.
Yeah.
On personal statement, is it possible to include what you have overcome since primary up to date, or should be current issues you have overcome, maybe during undergraduate and the journey after college life?
Hmm.
Um, it's your story. You can spin it whichever way you want. I think if something significant happened to you in your childhood, you can draw on that if it's part of your story. I
Hmm.
think I think my personal statement usually starts from how I picked an interest in the transport field from a very early age. I talk about that. So if you have that kind of story, I don't see why not.
Hmm.
So it's your story. You tell it the best way possible, and no one knows you more than you. So
Yeah.
I guess it's really up to you to tell your story the way you feel it's most reflective. There's no part of your story that's too old or too recent to be told, as far as it all comes together to
Hmm.
show exactly. Because some people, if someone was writing about a disability and maybe the person had an accident when they were 3 years old or 4 years old, and that's where the thing came from, you can't say that it's not relevant because it's in the past. So you basically have to tell your story the best way, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a personal judgment thing, if you ask me.
However, I would say don't dwell too much on putting too many problems into the essay that you forget to light the other things that are relevant to that personal statement. So it's a matter of knowing when to start and where to stop, and be mindful that you only have 500 words to write that story of yours.
Yeah. So, and just an additions, like he has mentioned, if that is where your most significant um, answer is, please by all means do include it. But
Hmm.
before you start writing, try to list all of the points that you want to include and then start weighing which one would create more meaningful impact or would show the significance of my personal statement among all these challenges that I've faced and how I've overcome them. And then try to include at least two or three of them, those that you think would give a more appealing personal statement of about yourself.
Yeah, this is another interesting question, I think. I attended my degree program in an open distance learning center, which makes it impossible to meet with my lecturers physically. How do I go about the academic reference requested by the CSE?
Online, because even if it was online, the lecturers, you still have contact with them. So it's a matter of writing to the lecturers an email, or yeah, usually it's an email that you can write to the lecturers to say you want a reference requested to this. So that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, or getting in contact with the head of section or department.
Mm,
Yeah, and just explain to them that you were a student in this year,
mm,
want this kind of reference because you're applying for this. So just be comprehensive in your email so that they are able to know more about you. They might not have been there at the time you are studying, so that they will be able now to see which lecturer would be able to give you uh,
yeah,
the reference that you need or something like that. However, the other way would be try to look within your professional space. If you belong to a certain professional body, you can get a reference, at least two reference from your professional body, and then one from your workplace where you're working, and that will complete the three uh, references
Yeah.
that are required.
Okay. I think we have just a few more questions, and I think we've exceeded the time, but maybe a
yeah.
few minutes more. Uh, this one's an interesting question. But I think the answer to this question, can one travel with wife and kids for the 1 year study duration if awarded the scholarship? This is not based on CSC,
Mm,
essentially. It's an immigration question. So
mm,
this will be subject to immigration laws in the UK.
yeah. I
So,
wanted to say the same, to say for this
yeah,
one, you have to go back to the immigration because there are some changes that are going to be effected next year, January 2024. So it's a matter of you going back to check if you are eligible for that, but also to make sure that to know that CSC will not fund wife and kids if you are going for a 1 year study under the MSc. They don't fund for that. So
Yeah,
it's for you to make sure that you have the money for your wife and kids to travel with you. So it's an immigration issue. Find out more on the immigration website. They have information, it's all over, but there are also some changes that are coming up in January. So that might soon change for 1 year taught masters scholars. Yeah.
yeah. So if you are applying for this scholarship and you want to bring your family with you for that 1 year that you're going to be here, this is the best time now for you to start preparing on how you are going to have your family come here. How are you going to look after them while they are while you are studying here? So if it means saving up, this is the best time to start saving up. At least you have close to a year of you planning before you start your studies.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think we have just two more questions and we're done. This question will entail you going to the CSC website to read
Hmm.
Yeah.
because
And we'll
even
tackle this
even
even for the first
yeah,
part of this. They can also go back to this recording because we talked at length on this one.
Yes.
There are
yeah,
several of them.
So
Yeah.
in a nutshell, we are saying that there are 6 scholarships and 1 fellowship.
Hmm.
So you can go to the website and find out on your own what are those 6 scholarship and the fellowship.
yeah. Because even me personally, I don't know the nitty gritty of all of them. I just have surface knowledge of some. So I won't even be able to answer this question comprehensively. So it still boils down to reading, but I know the information is on the website, so you can
Yeah.
always find it.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think this was the last question that we had that was incomplete. What if
Hmm.
you don't have evidence to back up volunteering and community services? Um, I don't think evidence is required in the essay that you're writing. That's when we're talking about the volunteer and leadership essay.
Hmm.
Evidence is not required. You're just required to write about it. And
Yes.
obviously, um, like Billy has said, it's best to be honest in whatever you're writing because the more honest you are in what you're writing, the more wholesome your essays fit together properly. So don't go and start tagging different things, that because when someone's reading your essay and they're getting the impression that this is someone that is in, because when you write your essay, you're building a personality. If I read all my, it should be one personality. And then you come to the volunteer leadership and you start saying that you've done this and you've done that, and it doesn't fit anywhere with what you've been saying before. It doesn't fit with your personal statement. It doesn't fit with everything else. Maybe because those things are not factual. Let's say, for example, then the impression of the examiner becomes this is not a strong application because it's not fitting together anymore.
Yeah.
So it's an impression that the person that's reading the essay will just get.
Mm.
But when you've referenced maybe your personal statement you've talked about, or when you feel your work experience in the form, you've talked about some certain things, and then leadership and volunteering experience, you now highlighted exactly the role you played while those things were going on. For Nigeria, we have the National Youth Service Commission corps that we do, NYSC, at the end of your undergraduate study. And within that, everyone is supposed to belong to community development service. And so you can, in your work experience, when you are serving, you have that as work experience. So it comes up in your work experience profile and you can reference it anywhere. And then when you now come to the volunteering part, you can also talk about the CDS that you did. And it's a full story, because whoever is reading it can now get a full context of what's happened, because you've mentioned that you worked for the federal government of Nigeria at so time within so time, and now you are saying that within that period you volunteered in so community to do so thing. So it comes together as one full story, but they won't require you to have any certificates or anything like that to back it up in the document. When you are uploading your documents, it's not something that they ask for. So think about it when you're putting your application together, and
I just wanted to put it out there to say, whenever you're writing something that you're not sure of, it also shows in your writing itself. So, for example, I started the applications in 2018. So, when I saw that most of the scholarships were asking me about voluntary work or what I did was I did send the applications, but I knew that I didn't send the best applications. But because I knew that there was a 1 year ahead for me to do the applications ahead, what I did was signed myself up to voluntary organizations and start working on a voluntary basis. So that's another way of making sure that you get up to speed to your voluntary work. Because when I saw that I was not able to answer the questions effectively as I could, I said, then I think I'm lacking in this area. So after I started my voluntary work, and then I've done with several organizations, when I was now writing the last essays, which now I was picked on multiple scholarships, it was now like coming in together to say, okay, I didn't have to cook anything, because this was something that I have done. This is something that I did, and it was so easier for me to put it on paper and to tie in with all the other essays that I've written in the whole application. So if you know that you're lacking in some skills, sign up to those other voluntary organizations. There are so many in your area, or what you hope to achieve in that kind of setting that you want to work in. Go and start working on a voluntary basis. If you don't make it this time around, you can use that experience to enrich your second application altogether. So
Perfectly put.
yeah. So I think this is the last question I can see. So we'll just be rounding up. So I think closing remarks are in order now.
Yeah.
So I think that was a very lengthy discussion. We've done more than 2.5 hours of talking. I
Yeah.
think, and I really hope that the audience have enjoyed the discussion and gotten a lot of value from it. So in maybe a very 1 or 2 minutes, what would be your parting words to the audience? Billy, you go first.
Okay, I think first of all, to start with, I just want to put a disclaimer that whatever has been said, the opinions that have come are usually our personal experience and what we've learned over the years of interacting with various scholarship, and they may not be the official position of, in this case, the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. So you should take that caution. For you to get the official opinion or stance of the commission, your best reference is the website for the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. So always reference the website for information on the scholarship. A message to those who are applying for this scholarship: I think we've stressed on the importance of researching. So please do a research on the universities, do a research on this Commonwealth scholarship, identify the gaps and stress on how you are going to meet those gaps. Let your application from your name to the time that you are submitting, it should be linked and flow to show that indeed these are your words, those are what will make you win the scholarship. For those who have just attended to this webinar and you are not thinking of applying for now, you want to apply in future, I think you've learned one or two things. And for you to win scholarship in the future, please do not feel lazy. Do not want to be spoon-fed always. Always try by all means to ensure that you read on your own. And it usually helps, especially if you are coming to study in the UK, where you are going to study for just 1 year for you to gain a master's. As you develop the culture of researching information, reading more, it is going to come and help you once you are doing your master's, because you have to research and do a lot of reading. So even as you are planning to apply in future, start researching now, identify the gaps in the eligibility or in the requirements of various scholarship, and try by all means to do courses or do things that will bridge up those gaps, so that by the time that you are applying, you would have all the requirements. You will just be putting up a strong application and you'll be confident that, yes, I've made this strong application and I'm going to win it. I'll give an example of myself. I've applied only twice for the Commonwealth Scholarship and I've gotten it twice on those occasions. The first one was in 2018 and 2019 when I applied. I got it for my master's. Then I had to look at the PhD. What were the gaps in the PhD that I didn't have after I graduated? By then, I only had one publication because from my master's, my professor and I published my work for my master's. And I really wanted to have a strong application for my PhD. So from 2020 to 2022, I started working on collaborating with various universities, doing some part-time lecturing on voluntary basis, getting involved in a publication and doing other things. By the time I was applying for in last year for this year PhD scholarship, I knew that I had a strong application and everything went on smoothly. So for those who are planning to apply in future, try to identify the gaps in various scholarships that you want to apply for in future and fill in those gaps by the time you are applying. For those who are new to the scholarship, there is no scholarship that is easy to win. You have to be prepared for it. Read the information on the website. The information is usually provided. Try to read as much as you can to understand that scholarship and take it serious. Do not want to be just fed by people. Try to do on your own. As you are doing it on your own, you will learn from your mistakes. I think those are my words.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Chinwe, your passing word.
What more can I add? It has been like very well put, very comprehensive. But the only thing that I'll say is research, research, and research. And no one, absolutely no one, is going to do it apart from yourself. So make sure you take the lead. And when you're going to the mentors, you're going to the mentors with questions that are relevant, very key, that when you're asking them, they will know that this person has done their research and they are indeed stuck. Not going to the mentors and just saying, hi, can you explain to me about the Commonwealth Scholarship? And yet with a simple Google, you can find that information. So make sure you go there when you feel like, no, I think this at this juncture, I think I need someone else to come in. Why? Because as Billy has said, when you come here, the university life here for 1 year is structured in such a way that the other percentage is you independent study. The other part is for lectures to just introduce the topic and you go back to do the independent study. And the other part is for you to do the research and the write. There are going to be essays, there are going to be exams, there are going to be work placements. There are so many things that are going to be happening and it's all on you and no one else. So if you learn, if you have that researching culture right now, it's not going to be difficult for you to blend in into this kind of learning that is done for 1 year. It's very hectic, but it's very doable. Everyone else has passed through the same. And if when we are talking about research, read, that's what you're going to do when you come and study for 1 year.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess that brings us to the end. Um, Billy, you have so Emmanuel said he loves your closing remark. That it was very
Well,
endearing and amazing. And
in
just
my
before we go, I want to, I want to give a small shout out to William. I've been seeing William answering some questions in the comment section, so I want to say thank you, William, for helping some of the people with their with answers to their questions, in addition to what we've been trying to do. Yeah. So one more question popped in just before we go, so I'll just try to answer this one, which is what William was answering. And it's, the answer is, so far the development impact is the same and the problem is the same and they all relate to the SDGs, then there's no problem if the SDGs are the same for all applications, so far as it makes sense. The most important thing is that your application makes sense.
Hmm.
So just before we go, this question came, and like I said before, if you look at the headlines of the different speakers, you see their names. Sharing of email addresses, I wouldn't advise that because it's a kind of personal contact. But what you can do is you can reach out to us on social media, either maybe Facebook or LinkedIn. Personally, I prefer LinkedIn because it's easier
Yeah.
for me to relate with you on LinkedIn. So just take this name that you see here and just search for it on LinkedIn and send a message, send a connection request, and we'll do our best to get back to you and put everything together and try to help you with your problems. And if you want to join the mentorship group on WhatsApp, you can also do that because a lot of information is also shared there. So my own closing remarks would be all the best in your application. Try to pay attention to details. Try to pay attention to the deadline. 14th December is not just 14th December. 14th December is 4 p.m. GMT, which means you should be aware of your time zone and you should try to aim to submit, if possible, 24 hours before the deadline, to avoid any kind of technical issues that may be going on that day or to avoid forgetting. Mark your calendar, set up a reminder so that you don't labor for the next 3 weeks and then you're not able to submit. Some people feel like, it's not possible. How can that kind of thing happen to me? But I've known someone that deadline was on 15th and the person thought it was 17th and then was trying to submit on the 16th and the portal has closed. So no one's above mistakes. So try to put in safety nets to catch you in case you fall into a problem. Reach out to mentors, reach out to your fellow applicants, reach out to your friends, let them help you to read through your writing. Sometimes your writing may make sense to you because you know the context behind it, but it may not make sense to a third party who's reading it. So you must not be a former awardee. Anyone who has a good command of English language can read your essay and tell you if it's flowing or if it's not flowing and if it's making sense. So these are some of the few tips that you can just use to give yourself some edge or some ground to stand on. So on this note, I say we'll call it a night. And thank you all for tuning in. And thank you for those who will be watching this recording. You all have a very good chance. And one last thing I want to say is that the Commonwealth shared scholarship is not the only scholarship out there. Don't limit yourself to this one opportunity. The fact that you're applying for a scholarship means that you have the opportunity to study in any country, anywhere. So while doing your research, also look out for other opportunities to study in other places. And whenever we have opportunities to share, we will also bring them here to share with you. So on this note, I would say good night and all the best in your applications.
Thank you, everyone, and all the best.
All the best.